Hello and welcome back to the Crusades of the Purple Knight. You find us here in the Stormhorns, looking out upon the snowy slopes, tucked into this little corner by the rest shrine, also conveniently by our quest, which is located there inside the mountain glacier. So, what do we have to tell you since last time? We finished the Deleras chain. Now that, as you could see, was a tough old chain. Not being able to use any of our crowd control was a pretty challenging situation, given that that's kind of the direction I've sent the build in. I tried immediately after Delira to have a go at one of the Evening Star challenges and ran into a bug at the end. I got to the end of the challenge. It was the sunset ritual, protect the spell ward until the time is up. Completed all the objectives, and at the end the quest just wouldn't complete for some reason. I've had it happen to me before, not in that one, but several times in the grove of the old tree, or whatever it's called, life tree or something. And I'm beginning to think I should maybe just steer clear of those, because it is frustrating when you get to the end and it, for whatever reason, it decides not to complete. You feel a little bit cheated. So after that, I went towards the Stormhorns quest givers, and at the end of the bridge on Evening Star there is the quest giver for the Mask of Deception, level 30 but elite only quest. So I thought we'd have a go at that. Did very nicely, the crowd control worked well. The healing, my goodness me, when you're not playing Reaper, suddenly the ticking heal from this death aura is really good. So nice not to have it nerfed by the Reaper mode. So that did make a big difference. I was wondering, because our mass hold 63 now, greater shout 57, so significantly lower than the mass hold. Mass hold is failing, I'm noticing a time or two, although in the quests where it is usable, like ones not full of undead, we're still doing very well with it. In Reaper, that is, what is it, 69 I think, with the Reaper points bonuses and the thing from there's another 2 points, isn't there, from the Eldritch Strike, this Knight's Controller enhancement we have. 2 on enchantment DCs. And spell pen doesn't seem to be too much of an issue, so let's call it around 70 as a benchmark. If you can hit around 70 for like a spell DC, I think you'll be doing okay, and that's quite a surprise to me. Normally I've thought that, unless you have really good gear for your level and you've pumped it up to the absolute max, you're not going to get any joy from the DC side of it. And at least until the end of the epics, not the legendary. I'm sure legendary would still be like falling off a cliff, and this DC would not work for anything. But for doing TRs, getting past lives, it's totally workable, sort of mid-60s. So that's been a great piece of news. Where was I going with that? Yes. Does any of you know if this Greater Shout is still bugged and works all the time, in fact? Because I have been falling back on it at the times when the mass hold's either been on cooldown or has failed, and it seems to me to be very rare, if at all, that it's failed to stun something. So I'd be interested to know your experiences on that. I mean, bearing in mind that this is at least probably going on for 10 points in Reaper lower, because I've really emphasised enchant, and our Eldritch Strike gives us more enchant. So it could be as many as 10 difference. And for some reason that seems to be working really well. I'm not complaining at all, but I do know that in the past that was bugged and landed all the time 100% without a save. So what did we do after the Mask of Deception? We did well, to get here we've done the 3 quests that have led us here. So Tracker's Trap, Lines of Supply, and the Breaking the Ranks. Now Lines of Supply and Breaking the Ranks were a real test of our crowd control and AoE, and I'm very pleased to say we passed it rather well. No real near-death experiences. Nice use of the disco ball to keep things and the mass hold obviously to keep things manageable. And he did really well, to the extent that I'm sorry I wimped out and went for this one instead of one of the tougher ones there, where I could have really shown you what the crowd control side can still do. You'll just have to take my word for it. I was pleased, and knowing me a little bit now, you might know that I tend to err on the negative side of things. So if I'm telling you it was good, it must have been good. I took the liberty of clearing out our bank a bit, and I'll show you the inventory. No sign of any XP stones now. So I just about did it before reaching the cap. Well done me. So those stones are now all in the bank. And as I was doing that, I realised the crafting storage is almost full. And a lot of that is down to these filigrees that only stack 5 at a time in there. And the developers obviously want you to invest in the augment bags from the store, which can stack up to 100 at a time of those filigree. Now, where was I going with that? Yes. It's a general kind of a gripe with this. Well, and a question as well. The question is, beyond helping, guildmates and friends out with filigrees that they might be short of, is there any point in keeping, 20 and 30 or 40 of these things, in these bags? I realise that it's possible, but what's the point? And that brings me on to my second thing. Not that these are crafting things, but these sort of pile-ups of inventory, like the seldom used Shan crafting items, or many other crafting things, with the possible exception of the slave lords, because they're sellable and they do sell, don't they, those things. But a lot of the stuff just piles up in the inventory, leaving you short of space, and you're left thinking, well, what should I get rid of, and what could still have some value? And I just wish there was because I don't think there is, beyond selling these filigree for a few platinum, which is probably just a waste of time. There doesn't seem to be any other use for them. I mean, these stacks of 30 or 40 of the same thing that I have, just bog standard filigrees. So I wish there was a use, maybe a bit like the Evening Star challenge vendor. You can trade the ingredients in there, can't you? Get a sentient weapon, which you can then feed to a sentient gem if you want. So at least there's some, some reward and something you can do with those currencies and things that have piled up. Whereas the filigree, as far as I can tell, they just pile up until you get to a stage where you're just being really picky what you take from the chests. I know this is the answer I'm going to get. Just open the chest, or maybe even don't open any chest. But open the chest and just pick and choose what you want, so you don't get all this stockpile. I would like something, like that Evening Star trader, whereby you could convert this huge stockpile into something useful, kind of a reward for time spent playing the game. Not nothing drastic. I mean, what should we say? Let's say a filigree would give 5 sentient XP, so maybe a stack of 100 of them built up over a long time. 500 sentient XP on a weapon, bearing in mind they take over, is it over 200,000 to cap out now? I don't think that's overly abusive, and you're not going to get loads and loads of filigree, are you, in a hurry? I don't think. Something like that, just something that makes it feel less than useless, rather than just having to not pick up anything because it's worthless. And the same thing for all those mountains of Sharn ingredients. I think I've used the Sharn upgrade system, you know, for the have we got any of it on us here? I don't think we do. There's a ring, isn't there? God, what's it called? The one with the +1 spell DCs that everybody likes. Is it Shattered Onyx ring? That's one of the ones you can upgrade using add quality, wisdom or charisma or intelligence, whatever you happen to want. Something like that. So I've done it once or twice, but beyond that, no. And I've loads of those ingredients. So I just wish we could do something. I mean, if any of you is aware of something that we can do with any of these mountains of things, please let me know. Or if any of you happens to have less and is looking for some of these filigree, let me know and I'll mail them to you. I don't have too many rare ones, but I have plenty of these bog standard things, if it can help anybody out. So that's the bank side and my whinging. I did actually free up a couple of 100 spaces in my crafting storage just by transferring these the filigree I had many copies of into one of these augment bags. I question whether that was time well spent, and it seems to me in this game there's an awful lot of time spent messing about with some form of inventory management or other. As you can see from this mess, you will gather that it's not exactly my favourite occupation. I really shouldn't show that. I hope the bear doesn't see that, because she's the world's worst for inventory. She always used to get me to log on to her account and sort little things out. But the thing was there, she still refused to throw anything away. She'd get me to flag up, you know, to trash, to flag up for trash the things that she really shouldn't keep. And then would come and say, oh no, I think I'll keep this. So she was starting chains with like 2 or 3 slots, thinking that was an accomplishment. Yeah. Oh, the joys. Right, so that's the filigrees and all that. Right, the feat choice for 28 was an interesting one. Plenty of good stuff we could have taken here. Deific Warding was a really good defensive one. A flat bonus to PRR and MRR, plus more each time you get hit, and we get hit all the time, so that would have been great. The only problem with that is wearing robes, we're almost capped anyway at 60 MRR, we can't go higher. So I thought maybe, well, we're certainly not going to get full value out of that, so I left that one. Double strike 5% was an option, and then there was Arcane Warrior, which works, if I understand it correctly, similar to one of our enhancements in here. There, cast an offensive spell and gain melee boost, and do a melee attack and gain spell power. Very similar to that, except it's stacked more times, I think. So that was tempting, but in the end I went for the Harbinger of Chaos, because we are chaotic neutral, and that is giving us 2 more imbue dice, and a couple of double strike points, so I figured that was worth an investment. There is an equivalent on the lawful side. We could have had PRR and MRR and 2 imbue dice, I think, if our character had been lawful. You only get the imbue dice, as far as I understand it, if your character matches the one that you're taking. So if you're chaotic, you can have the Harbinger of Chaos, and lawful, you can have the PRR MRR side of it. You always get the lawful. Let's suppose we were true neutral and we took the lawful one. There'd be no point because we'd miss out on the imbue dice, but we would still get the PRR and MRR if we absolutely wanted that. Okay. I think that's about all I had to say. Oh, just apart from this, I thought I'd try and be clever. I posted a video a while back about how to use the Stone of Change just outside the bank in the marketplace to use crafting ingredients to do little upgrades on items. And I was hoping to put a +1 on all saves on this suit of armour, this cosmetic armour which he wears all the time. And I'd forgotten that you can only put the saves bonus on what the game classes as a jewellery item, goggles or trinket, that kind of stuff. So I couldn't put it on the armour, and as I was already halfway through the procedure, the only thing I could do was a +1 bonus on armour class. So our armour class has gone from a useless 37 to an equally useless 38. And I've just wasted 1 minute of your valuable time telling you all that rubbish. If you don't know what the Stone of Change is or about the ritual of binding, I did do a little guide on how to use that in the guide section. I was doing I think it was a thing for Purple's end gear. It must have been his glasses or trinket or something that I put +1 saves on. For what it's worth, I think the saves one is probably the only one that's really worth bothering with, and even then it's debatable. Because what we got 30, 40, 50 points +1 on there. I suppose you could argue marginal gains. Still no extra gear, I'm afraid. I would have loved to add a legendary spinneret here. That would have been very nice, but the only one I have, the legendary one, is on my cold druid, and he, I'm pretty sure, has an end game augment in there, so we wouldn't be able to use that until the cap. So we're stuck with this. I will have a little look when we get to 29, see if there's anything from Purple's end gear we could use. I know there's a Ring of Decay which gives acid and negative spell power and crit, which would be awesome for his heals, and we could maybe switch to an acid imbue at that point, but I'm not sure what kind of augment that's got in it. So following along the trend of Hotchpotch gearing all the way. But it's been good in a sense. It's proved to me that one of my reasons for not experimenting in the past really wasn't valid. Namely that, I don't want to try and do something different because I don't have the gear for it and I've got to have good gear for it. Nonsense. Our gear, as you can see, is mostly heroic, and even with that being the case, I think we've done and the not a great number of past lives, and probably a not fantastic build either. we've done all right. We haven't been slaughtered at all. So I would encourage people on the back of what I've seen here not to do as I did and to trot out the same build all the time because you're comfortable with it and you've got the gear for it. Have a go, do some experimenting, and you'll hopefully see, as I have, that it can be a great deal of fun, and learn plenty about the game too. So, Epic Destinies, we're continuing to work up the draconic tree. I fear that by the time we qualify for the extra imbues in there, it's gonna be too late. We're already gonna be at the cap, but not to worry. I've added a 10% experience bonus, which I'm now wasting sitting in this wilderness area. We dropped it on a daily dice thing. I very rarely use these, but I figured with us coming close now to trading all the sagas in, we've got this one and then the what goes up quest at the end of this chain, and then we're trading the 5 sagas in from Evening Star, which should hopefully push us up close to 29, if not over it. That's the plan, so I figured I'd use the potion there. Okay, I think that's about it for the waffle. So let's get in here and see what we can do. There's still going to be some big packs of things in here, if I remember right. So we're going to get a chance to demonstrate our crowd control potential. Now, fire imbue should be particularly good in here, and indeed was good against the what's the boss called, the giant boss in the lines of supply. Is it General Grablandur? I think he's a frost giant, so the fire spell sword thing works particularly well there.
You are now inside the glacier. Somewhere within this ice, Orophon has arranged to meet the frost giant. Torchlight glimmers on fresh-cut ice and cold new timber. These excavations were made very recently.
Got to love a Christmas tree. Do that again. Bear in mind, when we do that, we're making full use of the crush weakness feat that we've taken in Epic. The disco ball doesn't cause helplessness,
deeper into the glacier.
Mass hold does.
The excavation work seems older and somewhat worn.
I should streamline somewhat this helplessness and not helplessness. Spell didn't work, yeah, I don't know what happened there. That was a nice one, no hit the improved, what do you call it, negative burst, instantly up to stop again. Review. Can we target you for a start? I don't know if I can target you. Once I've messed up with the natural spell targeting. Should have used this I probably should have, but I just like it when all the blue circles pop up.
There was no sign of Rungia or any other frost giant to be seen.
I wish I'd remembered to use the damn boost, that's what they're there for.
The path ahead is wide and elegantly carved, as if by entirely different hands than those below.
Right, let's do a ball. This is a historic moment. Activated a power boost. So you can see crowd control still holding up very nicely.
Still not a single frost giant among the army's host.
Can we freeze you? Oh yes. Happy days. And there's a lot of... Oh, massive lag. What the hell? Oh, God. I think that might be part of, if not all of the reason my spells are struggling to cast. I was just about to say, compared to quite a few of you with doing the Eldritch Knight thing, I'm especially now towards the cap, I'm using more melee than some of you would. But just as I tried to change that and throw a Tempest in, the whole thing just stopped, didn't it?
The gate at the far
once
end
we've
of the
activated
wide
this fight,
fissure
we
slammed
can make
shut.
it a bit easier on
A
ourselves and
robed
just stand
figure
here.
eyes you
I've seen some
sourly
people
from
do
a
this.
ledge above you.
Just let them all gather beneath us and then deal with them down there. Is that what we do?
First
Yeah,
the
looks
dead
like it.
frost giant. Now you. I am on a schedule with the prince's time for this.
He needs to be stopped. Gather in another big pile and do this one again. Oh, I've missed one. Wondered why it wasn't going on.
This is taking much longer than I had hoped.
Oh, hey up. Oh! Actually, the whole work is down. Stop being a wimp and get stuck in. The bear would be appalled at behaviour like that.
Why are these
Especially from a
minions
melee.
always so flimsy? Is it the cold?
Come on then, let's all have you. It's not great today, is it?
That was a waste of resources. I suppose you want to get through that gate over there.
See, we're even deflecting these rocks. Every 2 seconds, when something's shot at us, we can deflect it away with that core 5
Then I
from
fear
the
you will
Eldritch Knight
be
tree. That's really nice.
disappointed. The passage ahead looks different than the areas above. There are almost
If you
no
don't get it
signs
through
of the
Eldritch Knight, you
Netherese
can get
or their
missile
monstrous horde.
deflection through the Vistani tree as well. I think it's the second core, is it, that gives it? But that's only once every 6 seconds. Still nice to have,
A
though.
massive orb of some kind can be seen through a fissure in the ice. Is this why the Netherese are here? You have found the frost giant Rungnir against the Netherese. My enemy's enemy is not my friend. Rungnir rumbles, but perhaps my ally. The dark stone of the mountain juts out of the ice where the glacier and mountain meet. You've reached the very roots of the mountains.
Rude. I think there's one lurking just up here, isn't there?
again, cries a muffled voice from beyond this gate. You have rotten luck at dice, Marlock.
You have various conversational options here, don't we, to try to we do have some bluff. Okay, good stuff. One to go.
You have recovered enough of Rungnir's battle trappings to satisfy him, although he might be pleased if you found more.
I think this whole chain, just atmosphere and graphics and whatnot, really nicely done. The only thing I don't like is the purple effect at the end of what goes up, which is just a bit painful. I think some of you have got ways around that, haven't you, to make the screen show you what's going on, because it's so easy to fall down that hole in the middle of the end fight when you can't really see what's happening.
Good, Rungnir says. Now I may arm for battle. Come
Now this one
way.
again,
The
you can,
wizard Tharno will be in the great chamber,
for the
I
casters,
think,
there's a way
says the
to
frost giant.
stay out of the
Let
way. You
us
can go
meet
up on this
there.
ledge at the
The
top and just
wizard
shoot
Tharno
down.
stands
Well,
in the
we're not
middle
going
of
to
the
do
great
that.
cavern.
We wimped out of the
Though
previous
he's
one,
seen
didn't we?
his
Let's,
you again.
let's
And
be
you,
brave this time.
Rungnir, as well, I see. There you are, liar, cries the frost giant, storming into the room. What are you really
I've used
doing
exactly
in
one
my
boost in the whole
glacier?
of the quest.
What are your true plans? That is not for you to know, you vainglorious giant. You have outlived your welcome. Laughs Rungnir. Well fought. Now leave my glacier before I add your corpses to the pile. Still here.
Look at these nice purple numbers here for the fire.
Shall be your grave.
I don't know if he'll be affected by the lightning storm. Now the equivalent big fire. ancient gem.
To die in battle. No shame
I'll take that.
in that.
I'm actually a bit sorry I didn't try and go for one of the tougher ones with creatures all over the place, especially the army camp one, because that would have really shown how well we can stand up, you know, with the disco balls and the mass hold, because you've got stuff, as you know, if you've done that quest, coming from all over the place and constantly pouring into the area as well. So I think that's and I've had some real tough times in there. I mean, with some builds you just can't do it, like let's say with an archer, a standard archer build, there's just no chance in that place. You need some AoE, at least AoE damage, and preferably crowd control too, to succeed in there. So really good that was. And that last one, I think I won't say we flew through it, but we certainly weren't in any trouble, were we? Between the crowd control and this nice heal we've got now from the Master of Death, it's working quite nicely. And nice to see the crowd control, broadly speaking, has taken us all the way to the cap. And this is kind of upper epics now, and the mass hold is still working, and so is the disco ball. And this, I have a suspicion that shout might be bugged and shouldn't be doing what it's doing, but I'll happily take it. We need all the advantages we can get. So we're going to go on and do the final one in the chain, the what goes up, and after that, as I mentioned, I'll be taking the 5 Evening Star sagas that we've prepared. So if you want to know what quests are in those, you can look epic sagas up on the wiki, or you could just check on the because one of you wanted the quest details posting in each one for this life. You could check the chains and the quests we've run, and you too would get flagged for those 5. And that, I'm pretty sure that will take us into the 29. So I'll have to think about what we can show you for 29. Maybe we already did Inferno of the Damned in the Necropolis in the Heroics, didn't we? So we can't do that again. Maybe the other one that is reasonably straightforward to solo in there, is it the Desecrated Temple of Vol? Perhaps we could have a go at that, because that's a level 29. Don't hold me to it, but maybe that'll be the one. Okay, I think that's about it for this one. On a nice sunny day in Evening Star, we will bid you good day. Thanks very much as always for looking, and I'll speak to you in the next one. Take care.